Good afternoon. My name is Mark Dupree, Wyandotte County District Attorney. Today I will be discussing a case concerning Olin Coons, case number 08CR594, and how the case came to Wyandotte County District Court through the Conviction Integrity Unit. As many of you know, our office established the first integrity unit, conviction integrity unit in the state in 2018. But hopefully, we will not be the last. Our conviction integrity unit functions as an independent unit within the district attorney's office that addresses credible claims of innocence in a timely, efficient, and consistent manner. Its mission is to establish a framework of collaborative, expeditious, and thorough case review that will lead to stronger prosecutions, fewer wrongful convictions, and a greater community trust in the community justice system in the future. As ministers of justice, we are called by the United States Supreme Court since 1939. We believe in upholding our duty to refrain from improper methods as a prosecutor, those methods that may be calculated to produce convictions regardless of the strength of the evidence, and use every legitimate means to bring about convictions that are just. As such, we respond whenever we receive new, substantial, and credible information that the evidence used to imprison someone for a serious or violent felony is not trustworthy. That information is reviewed to determine if we can remain confident that the right person is convicted for the crime that he or she was charged. It is our sincere hope that we will not be the only conviction integrity unit in the state of Kansas, but will be the first of many to emerge as the need is realized and widely accepted. The major barrier to review or develop policies and procedures that could prevent wrongful convictions is a systematic failure to acknowledge the mistakes of our past, to correct them, and do all that we can to ensure we never repeat them. Anytime there is a system that involves humans, error is possible. If we fail to accept the possibility of human error, we're doomed to repeat the failures of our past. And today, one of those failures was realized. The Conviction Integrity Unit, headed by Senior District Attorney Antoine James Floyd, picked up this case, and along with the Chief Investigator of the Conviction Integrity Unit, Colin Brown, uncovered evidence that led us to where we are. That evidence was highlighted in the court setting today. That evidence consists of discovery and the lack of disclosure of a fourth bullet. That evidence of the fourth bullet was sitting across the street in a plastic bag for 12 long years, but it held the key to an innocent man's freedom. It was the Conviction Integrity Unit that found that bullet. The original medical examiner from 12 years ago changed his opinion. His opinion then was that this case was a double homicide. But he testified that his opinion is that it was, in fact, murder-suicide. There was a second medical examiner who gave the same opinion. The court illustrated and highlighted that there was financial evidence of embezzlement and felony and a crime of felony writing of more than 100 fraudulent checks that was known to the state, but the state did not disclose to the defendant or to his attorney. The court further spoke of the issues that occurred with changing of beneficiaries of life insurance policies and extreme financial difficulties that, again, the state knew about but did not disclose to the defendant or his attorney. There was failure to test swabs that showed gunshot residue on the hands of Kathleen Scroll. That evidence was tested and realized by the Conviction Integrity Unit. There was found to be no gunshot residue on the defendant in this case, Mr. Coons. That information, the swabs, were taken by the state 12 years ago, but the state refused to get it tested. Thus, again, information that could have proven very important for this case. It is with all of this evidence combined, along with the jailhouse informant that was given a deal and had multiple conversations with this office that was never disclosed to the defendant, never disclosed to his attorney. And despite warnings from other prosecutors around the state to not use this jailhouse informant because of lack of trustworthiness, that information, again, was not made known to the defendant or his attorney. And this office pursued this case with that informant to ultimately convict Mr. Coons of murder, and of which he was rendered a life sentence. Having looked and considered all of the facts, the judge found that there was indeed manifest injustice, and he ordered a new trial. He ordered that the conviction be set aside and that the prosecutor's office suborn perjury with allowing the testimony of this informant and other things in this case. It is with all of this substantial new evidence that I look at this case with a new eye. And I first want to apologize to Mr. Coons, to his 5 children that he was taken away from, and to his family. And I also want to give my sincere apologies to the Scroll family, who has had to endure 2 processes concerning their loved ones. This case was indeed a failure of our system, of which the Conviction Integrity Unit was designed to uncover and to correct. And as such, today I told the court that we will dismiss this case and not be requesting a new trial. And Mr. Coons, I believe, is in the process of being released and will be able to go home today. Today is a good day. Justice was served. That's all that I have. I'll take any questions at this time.
This is the first exoneration to come out of your CIU unit, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And does that make that the first time this has happened throughout our metro area, if you know?
Yes, it would be the first that has happened in this metro area via a Conviction Integrity Unit. We know that in 2018, the Conviction Integrity Unit was created, and it was and still is the only Conviction Integrity Unit in the state of Kansas. There was an exoneration, of course, by Mr. McIntyre, but that was before the creation of the Conviction Integrity Unit in 2017.
How many cases have they looked at?
I'm sorry, can you say it one more time?
How many cases has the unit looked at?
The unit has looked at multiple cases. cases, many cases. I will tell you that Mr. Floyd and Mr. Brown are back working and looking at other cases. Just to give kind of a way of timeline, Mr. Coons wrote a letter to me here in the office back in 2018. And it was in 2018 that our office began to really look at the case, but as noted, the Conviction Integrity Unit had not been funded yet fully until the beginning of 2019. And so with limited resources, we reviewed this case, and in 2019, the Conviction Integrity Unit was partially staffed. We had an attorney, but then we had a part-time investigator, a certified law enforcement officer, as well as a part-time assistant. And those that part-time investigator did all of this legwork and did this work and found that bullet that was setting over there and did all of this work even as a part-time. Since then, we have now gone full-time in the recent months, even so. And so it took 2 years to get to this place with Mr. Coons' case. And so my hope is that as we continue to review cases, that we can get to them faster, but it takes time and we have to be thorough. But it is our hope via the Conviction Integrity Unit that no innocent person, no wrongfully convicted person is ever sitting in custody because of us or because of wrongs that we have done or errors that we have made.
Have you been able to speak with him at all today or recently?
I did. I was in the courtroom when the judge declared that there was manifest injustice and set the conviction aside, at which point we then let the court know that we would not be retrying the case and that we would be dismissing. After which I spoke to Mr. Coons and I was able to shake his hand. And I looked him in the eye and gave my sincere apologies for what he had to go through. And his only response was, "Thank you for answering my letter." So he has a good heart despite all of what he's been through. And I hope that it is a testament of good human beings to go through what he's gone through and still have the mind to shake a prosecutor's hand, because prosecutors make mistakes as well.
The letter that he sent you, was he just asking you to look further into his case, or what was he maybe writing to you specifically?
He was writing saying that he was an innocent man. He was writing saying that I don't know how I got here, but I'm not supposed to be here. And he wrote out some of the things that we later investigated and found were true. Many of the things that were brought to light, it's important to note that the prosecutor on the case and the administration at that time knew about. It was in the file, but it was hidden from the defendant and it was hid from his attorney. And without the Conviction Integrity Unit and our willingness to review this matter, that information would have continued to stay hidden and buried. So we're hopeful that we will continue to right wrongs rather than try to hide them.
Why does this happen?
You know, I ask myself that all the time. Why does this happen? I know that the numbers show that since 1989, over 2,000 individuals have been wrongfully convicted. And I believe that oftentimes prosecutors, traditional prosecutors, are trained to pursue convictions at all costs. the desire and the hope is to win. But the Supreme Court said in 1939 concerning prosecutors that we have two jobs. One is that the guilty not go free. And two is that the innocent not suffer. And I think for a century, prosecutors have gotten so caught up on that first prong of making sure that we get the guilty. And yes, we must vigorously pursue them. But when there is innocent, we must do our second prong duty. And that is making sure that the innocent do not suffer. All I know is that our hope is that this conviction integrity unit will become the rule in our state and in our country and not the exception, because clearly errors and mistakes were made.
Two more.
I've got one more. That unit, how do they determine which cases they will maybe look further into? I'm sure you get, maybe not letters all the time, but people that will say, they were wrongfully convicted and they, remain there or retain their innocence. How do you determine which ones that you guys will look further into, or do you look at all of them?
So we look at all of them that come in, and we have different stages of review. And if it makes it past that initial stage, then we take it to this second stage of more in-depth research and investigation. And if it makes it past that second stage, then we're getting into real evidence and real issues and constitutional violations or hidden evidence that was never turned over, and or actual innocence. And let me say this. So we look at all of them and we make that determination. This office does not determine anyone's innocence concerning the state statutes. What happens from this point is that if Mr. Coons' desire to prove that he is, not only was there manifest injustice, which this court has said today, but to prove that he is a man of complete innocence, he has to file a lawsuit to the state of Kansas, not Wyandotte County, to the state of Kansas. And at which point the Attorney General will then make a determination on whether or not he will receive a certificate of innocence based off of his office's review of all of the evidence, the transcript, and the information, and quite frankly, potential prosecutorial misconduct that will be brought to light. And so our job is not to determine his actual innocence. That's for the Attorney General's office.
One more.
To determine.
Is there any legal risk for anyone who is involved in prosecuting this in a way?
What I will say is that there are authorities that will be contacted based off of the judge's ruling and what was stated on the record based off of the evidence and information that came out concerning the individuals that was in this office that handled this case and the wrongdoing that the judge spoke of, and those authorities will take a look at that and determine what that is. Thank you all for your time, and thank you for being here.